I pay myself for talking. By a show of hands, how many of you have ever, this is going to get real, folks, and this will be a disclaimer that some of this information may traumatize or re-traumatize. Know that we have certified clinical supports in the room, that if you feel that you need to step out, please do so, because your safety and well-being is first and foremost with this. But how many of you have been without transportation? Been without transportation, car, bike, motorcycle. Been without it. How many of you have been homeless? How many of you know someone who is homeless? That's what some of what we're going to talk about this morning, along with post-traumatic stress and a few other topics. So Samuel Smiles says it best, that hope is a companion of power, mother of success, for whoso hopes strongly has within the gift of miracles. And that's really what it's all about, is instilling hope into the hopeless. Each of us have a duty to look out for our fellow colleague, neighbor, community member, first responder, you name it. A little background of me, real quick, is besides the U.S. Navy and Michigan Army National Guard, I am father to a U.S. Marine veteran. I am father to an oldest son that I wish would have went in the Marines. And I have been homeless. I have been without a car. And you'll hear later on more graphic details of all that. But what I found, and I work, by the way, till October 3rd, I work in mental health as a veteran certified peer support specialist. I work with veterans who are without cars, who are homeless, who are, even if they do have a car, guess where they're sleeping? In their car. So they're still homeless. They're just using their vehicle as their home. But I think about hope, and all right, wake up.
So back to hope. Let's hope it works.
See, Navy guys, we only know how to operate with a couple of things. A knife and a piece of line. That is neither. They probably timed out because I talked too long.
No. There we go.
You working on it?
Yeah, there's text popping up here.
So yeah, you can't see it, but it says eradicating veteran issues through collaborative community effort and adequate funding advocacy. So some of this is material that I presented March 25th in front of the Veterans Family Committee in Lansing with my good friend State Rep Kathy Schmaltz, the chair. So we're going to talk about transportation homelessness, PTS, because I don't call it a disorder, although DSM-5 does call it a disorder. I was not born with post-traumatic stress, I endured it. Suicide, veteran navigator, and finally, hyperbaric oxygen treatment therapy. And then I will share my story at the end. So currently, as of 2022, Michigan has 1,780 homeless veterans throughout the state of Michigan. So if you think about that, you think about all the population of homeless veterans from the state and the national, that's over 4,000 veterans that are homeless. Now we know that we have a choice because this is America. All of us went and defended that freedom to do what we want within reason. And there are some of our comrades, brothers and sisters in arms, that choose to be homeless, probably for more reasons than Telegraph Road is long. But the ones who aren't, that's who we have to go after. It goes back to that hope. And then what I found, it's interesting because I live in Jackson, which is, if you've never been there, no, I don't live at the prison either. Although I have been in that prison in a B-lot movie filmed about 10 years ago. And when those gates close, they close. And when you're in that cell, could you imagine with all of us who experience post-traumatic stress being in that cell? Yeah, I think I would become Hulk and do every might to pull them bars apart. But I lived down in Region 9. In 2022, 3,440 homeless in that region. Lansing, Jackson, Battle Creek, Ann Arbor. So that covers that. So think about that. Think about the number and how it relates to being homeless. Most of you haven't been, but you know somebody. They make up that number. And that's 2022. This is 2025. We know that numbers are always skewed because the data cannot be raw as we're, as in the day. The other part of that is that they run into broken resources. How many are familiar with Paquette House, Paquette Square? So the Paquette Square, I learned about at Eastern Michigan in my undergrad because I did a grant, a mock grant application. I learned how to write a grant and learned about the 14 different pieces that go into writing a grant. And what I learned about the Paquette Square is every community should have a Paquette Square, including Jackson. Because the Paquette Square is not just a building for homeless veterans to be in, it's a transitional opportunity of hope. It allows veterans not only a safe space with their own community, but it also allows them to transition from there to their own place. I believe this is where our state should place more money, is to put up Paquette Squares in every major community. Battle Creek, Flint, Grand Rapids, Jackson, Kalamazoo, Port Huron, Crystal Falls, Michigan. No, I don't say that because Crystal Falls is about as big as the room here. I was there last weekend with the state commander of the VFW. However, Paquette Square represents all of us. Because those of you who never raised your hand may, without resources, without support, and without hope, you may become a resident in Paquette Square. That's why it's so important for our advocacy. Another program is supportive SSVF. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a special federal housing program. It's run through community action agencies. I don't know if this area has a community action agency per se, but the SSVF, we here in Jackson, Lenawee, Hillsdale Branch, and St. Joe counties, they're able to work with a homeless veteran, get them into the program, get them into stable housing, and then start that process of transitional supports. Going back to where I was talking about at the beginning, being homeless, I was a prime candidate of this program. I was able to go to Community Action Agency because I spent 5.5 months sleeping in my vehicle when I came home from Iraq. Yes, I had friends. Yes, I had family. But we know, most of us, we know, that pride, humility, honor, dignity, respect are core values of who we are from being in the military. We don't want to go back home. I didn't want to go back home to mom and dad's at 42 years old. I didn't want my other family and friends to know that I didn't have a place to live. I'd rather sleep in my vehicle than to lower my standards to that. And so this SSBF was there for me. They were able to put me into housing. They were able to have a counselor who came in once a month and met with me to find out how everything was going. Was there anything wrong with the apartment? Was there any emotional, mental, physical ailments that were bothering me? Because I started to attend Jackson Community College at 42 years old and work on my associates in business and marketing, and then later on transitioned over to Eastern Michigan. But it was because of this program that gave me hope to be able to believe in myself that at 42 years old, I hadn't lost all dignity. So what do? They work with the veteran, they work with landlords. It is a fixed income ratio where you will pay a portion and the program pays the rest, which was pretty nice because at that time under voc rehab educational benefits, I was able to get a stipend for going to school and pay minimal costs for energy, utilities, phone, and rent. People who are facing eviction. And they work with landlords who are willing to accept vendored payments. Because some landlords will not accept a reduced payment. If it's $750 a month and the program offers them $525, they may not accept that. And then you've got the HUD-VASH and other vouchers that is included. So going with transportation. How many of you live off the grid? Out of sight, out of mind for the most part. You're so far away from the big city that the seagulls have to bring your mail out to you. That's not funny because guess what the second suicidal rate of individuals is? 70 years old, white male, socially isolated, cut off from resources and hope. How many of you in this room are 70 or older? That's not calling you out, because I'm getting there. I'm 8 years away. But I think about that. 70 years or older, socially isolated, no connection, and this is a shameless membership plug, no connection to a service organization, no acceptance into resources, no family. Maybe family is all deceased, or they're living out of state. So you think about Mary or John living 25 miles away from major resources. And there's a lack of transportation. Most of us are pretty beat up from being in the military. Most of us cannot walk 25 miles one way to a resource. A few, but not many. So that's why it's so important that we advocate more for more transportation and more housing. And it also affects, you have back busing services. Buses don't go off the city grid. They go within that city block mile. So if you think about it, if you think about the thousands of people who live off the grid and they can't get busing, they can't get to the grocery store, they can't get to appointments, they can't get to veteran service organization meetings, they can't get to anything, church. So then it starts to tear apart that whole dimension of your health, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. It starts to break you down, piece by piece. And then the income. Many veterans are on fixed income. And even if there was busing service to get to you, they're going to charge you maybe $3 to $5 one way to get to that needed resource. I know in Jackson, we'll talk about this in just a second, in Jackson they have Rides to Wellness. It's through the Jackson Transit Authority, and it's a program that's funded specifically for those who are without transportation, to get to mental health appointments, get to the grocery store, the doctor's appointments, come pick up scripts. Because most places don't ship the script to you like the VA does. Most places make you stand in line for an hour just to pick up the script. For the interest of time, I'm not going to play this, but this is Phoenix Mobility Rising, based here in Detroit. And they serve Oakland, Wayne, and Macomb County, Jackson County, and Kent counties right now. And Washington. This organization ran out of funding last year because they only get so much money and they have to divvy it up. They had $125,000 for veteran programs. $34,000 of that went to the Detroit market. $14,000 of it went to Jackson and Hillsdale County. Now, if you've never heard of Hillsdale County, it's south of Jackson, 45 minutes. It's a rural community. So if you think about, there's 4,000 veterans in Hillsdale County, there's 12,000 veterans in Jackson County. You think about how many of those in Hillsdale County are socially isolated in that rural connection. Organizations like this exist because Valerie Leffler, the founder, believes that everyone should have access to adequate transportation. So yeah, go check that out. Link up with the organization, tell them I sent you. There's different communities that have coordinators. Jackson has a coordinator with Deb Hyatt. There's other coordinators. I'm on the leadership team because I joined that team because it goes back to when I said I was without transportation. If I can be a helpful resource support in some way through advocacy, through anything, then it's going to take and benefit so many more people. You know, my young son, who's a Marine vet, yes, he has 2 vehicles. But at some point, what if he was to be out on his own and didn't have a car? He'd have to rely on some form of transportation. How many are familiar with Walking with Warriors? So Walking with Warriors is all over the state, has veteran navigators. Veteran navigators are those hope angels because those veteran navigators connect all of us to those crucial resources. 2 VSOs, 2 homeless shelters, 2 food pantries, linen closets. What else? Church support, SUD support, whatever you name it. And the Veteran Navigator, they have a master list like that long that they can plug you into your respective counties for that. And there's an important need because there's a lack of funding. Veteran Navigators right now, they support breakfasts once a month for veterans in those communities. Without that funding, they can't have that collaboration and community of having all of us come together for an hour and a half and learn about each other, learn about, like I've learned about a few of you in the audience, your service. That's what these programs are entailed to do, is to keep people from becoming socially isolated. So they work to connect veterans, federal, state, local resources, ease some issues, connect you to mental health, build that camaraderie, commitment, compassion. And they provide, like I said, the breakfasts that build all of that. Hyperbaric oxygen treatment therapy. How many are familiar with that? All of you, or most of you should be, because sadly, it's been in the news in a couple of instances. Missouri just became the 12th FDA-approved state recently, and we've introduced a bill 2 years ago, House Bill 5146, to the state to approve Michigan as the next hyperbaric. And it goes back to that PTS portion. It goes to traumatic brain injury, foot ulcers and diabetics, military sexual trauma, and so many other things, because when you go into that chamber, it pumps 100% medical grade oxygen into those broken red blood vessels, and it starts to repair things. No, it does not cure the ailment, but it minimizes it down so it's more manageable. In those instances that I know of, in my opinion, there was operator error, mechanical failures, stuff like that. It was not, that I know of, that the information I've learned, it's not that of, it just happened. But we know how many planes crash every year. How many car accidents happen every so many minutes. So you're always at risk, no matter what you're doing, to do something. And if there's something that's been around for quite a long time, if the majority of us, no, we don't want any one of us to go in and get killed by that chamber, but if it can help take that severity of our PTS or TBI and bring it down a little bit, then it starts to repair everything else and helps you have a more manageable life. So the goal of it is to get more oxygen to the damaged tissues, to remove the trapped air bubbles, growing new blood vessels, tissues, supporting the immune system, and it's used to treat multiple conditions. Like I said, PTS, MST, TBI, diabetic foot ulcers, skin grafts, skin flaps, low count of red blood cells, hearing loss, vision loss. It's amazing what our brain, when damaged, what it does to us. The reason I say all this, my good friend Kevin Hensley, a stout advocate for the PACT Act getting passed, he suffers from burn pit damage. That chamber, he has one of those chambers, compliments of Down River for Veterans organization. By a guess, how much do you think one of those costs?
Millions.
10,000? 20,000?
About right in there, between $18,000 and $20,000. Right now, we've proposed $1.5 million to the state of Michigan to purchase 100 of those to the most severe burn pit veterans and non-veterans in the state of Michigan. A lot of movement, a lot of legislation, a lot of discussion, but it's because of our post, and I believe your post, right, Brian, that we supplied him a backpack. But anyways, we provided him a backpack oxygen system, so he doesn't have to trail around an oxygen bottle all day with him. Monroe.
1138.
Yep. You know, I got the numbers mixed up. But anyways, it gives him quality of life. So put it in perspective, he came home, his oxygen level was 56%.
Oh my gosh.
Gee.
From the burn pits, from the Air Force. No, he didn't sit in the tent all day and eat bonbons. But he did suffer burn pits to where he's not going to have quality of life to what he wants for him and his family. After 3 dives, it increased to 60%. After 30 dives in Tucson, Arizona, it increased even more. That is why he has a chamber in his home. That is why 423 and 1138 purchased the backpack system for him, is to give him a more quality of life experience. He probably won't see 70 years old, perhaps. We don't know. There's only one person in charge. We know where he's at.
Amen.
But we do know whatever quality of life we can give him, it helps his mental health. Because he doesn't have to worry about breathing, which is important unless I checked. Or I'd be on the ground, you'd be doing, somebody be doing CPR right now. But it's important to know that people like him are why the PACT Act got passed. And him and 3 others lobbied over 15 times on their own dime to Washington to get the PACT Act passed. At the VFW National Convention, we blew up the Washington line when we were asked to text and call all of our legislators. We shut the system right down. Do you think advocacy doesn't work?
Yeah.
They didn't know how to react. 8,000 people at a VFW convention shut down the Washington, D.C. hotlines. That is advocacy in action, my friends. So it's important to get a hold of your legislators. I testified, like I said in the beginning, to State Representative Kathy Schmaltz, who is the chair of the Veteran and Family Committee in Lansing, March 25th. If you go to the House videos, you can watch my 33-minute presentation at the 50-minute mark. They also had the commander of the American Legion there, and some other VFW service officers and stuff. Gary Easterling, many of you might know, he testified. So for 1 hour of that meeting, you had the voices explaining to 15 people up at the board the importance of passage of anything. It's not just this, it's veteran navigating funding, it's funding for homelessness, transportation, improvements to everything for mental health. We know the numbers go up and down on the guns, but what's most important is this right here. If you own a firearm, how many of you have one of these on it at all times? You can use them for a bike lock too. Did you know, and District Commander Martin, who has the key to your gun lock? And why do you have the key?
Because I'm the responsible user, and the gun belongs to me.
Responsible, but your wife, girlfriend, significant other, parent should have the key. Because in the event that you become suicidal and want to use that weapon on yourself, you have access. If someone else has a key, you don't have access. That's why we have gun locks. That's why we have regular locks that you can, gun safes, whatever you call them. And a quick story is, my son came home from the Marines 2 years ago in May, and he went out and bought a 9mm. He had it in a lockbox. I said, do you have one of these? Oh no, I don't need it. I said, in my house you'll put it on there, or you can take that gun box right out of the house, because you won't leave that firearm unprotected. Yes, it's in a lockbox. You know how easy somebody can pry open a lockbox?
Yep.
That's why those are invented. By the way, probably over 100,000 of these get given away every year by the VA. I've got 12 cases of them. And since 2018, I've given out 45 cases to members of VFW. 45 cases. And there's 25 in a box. There's 5 boxes in a case. You do the math, because I'm a comm major. The purpose of all this is to reduce the use of the firearm by having responsible, like Brian said, having responsible, accountable actions. That way, when used properly, it can protect the home. But I don't know what it is right now. As of earlier this year, I believe it was 54% ladies, gun suicide, 54, 56%.
Of all suicides? Like
Veterans with gun.
I think it's 70. Yeah, 70 something. Yeah.
75? 70 something.
And Chief can attest, 6 years ago, you and Sue and Larry Billings sat on a phone with a veteran who had a handgun cocked to his head for nearly 6 hours. It's real, friends. But these fine folks will manage to talk them down, get them into safety. That's why we have advocacy. We have people in our corners, we have committees, we have other organizational people that will take the time, will give up their time, because time is precious. You can't put no value on time. Time is money. I always learned that in business school. No matter what you're doing, it's still worth some value to you. So if you would, real quick, where am I at for time? Almost perfect. Hey, it's good speaker. That's a postmaster in me. Here's that, or $100,000 worth of degrees from Eastern Michigan. If you would, those who are comfortable, bow your head just for a moment. No, we're not going to church, because I am not an ordained minister. But those who are comfortable, bow your head. And I know this woman who was good friends of this little boy, that he always came to her through brokenness, through heartache, through setbacks in life. And that woman said to this little boy that you're stronger than you believe. But that little boy didn't believe in himself. Through being bullied, through growing up in a children's home, through being adopted at 2.5 years old, through not knowing who his biological dad was, through going through different school districts and just not finding himself. Well, that little boy, he never shared all this with his lady friend. And on August 7th, 1999, in the back end of a bar, that little boy sat with all of his depression medications and for 6.5 hours proceeded to drink and drug himself to suicide. He shared all that information 3.5 weeks later after mental health lockup in therapy for that lady. That lady didn't believe it. May open your eyes. Unless you're sleeping. Friends, that lady was my late mom, who's been gone 9 years at 1:01 this afternoon. That little boy was me. The reason I tell you all of this, we go through bullying. We go through feeling hopeless and helpless. We go through feeling that there's no purpose to live because we don't believe enough in ourselves. So that little boy, me, attempted again February of 2001. I needed discipline. I needed change in my life, so I went back into the military because I missed the discipline and the camaraderie. That was my turning point. And 7 years ago, I sat down and started typing. And typed and typed and typed. But I second guessed myself, and I put the typing down for 3.5 years. Picked it up 2.5 years ago. And yesterday, some of you might have followed on my Facebook, that little boy who should have been dead 26 years ago, is why I wear this bracelet, published his first book. My stories of reality, my stories of darkness, but my stories of hope. And thank you for the VFW and Toastmasters giving me a voice, because I was a shy little introvert. But that little boy sat down and wrote all of his stories, good, bad, and ugly. And in 2 weeks, this book will be available. This is not a sales pitch. This is a hope pitch. Because my hope is that this book will save a life, save lives, save thousands. Because you know what? I'm damn tired of over 8,000 veterans, over 500 active duty, taking their life every day. And that Marine veteran that I talked about, that Marine veteran on Easter weekend 3 years ago called at 1:30 in the morning. Dad, my fiance broke up with me. I don't feel safe. Let that sink into your heads. What would you do if your granddaughter or grandson who's in the military right now called at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and said they feel like killing themselves? That's why this book is written. That's why all of you, no matter your age, all of you have a story that's worth sharing. Commander?
I can't
Do
imagine.
we need to take a break? Take a break, or, well, we take a little
Can you turn off
10-minute break? Thank you, Doug.
I'm sitting right on wow. Did I bring my jacket in with me? I thought I did. Did I put it down? Or did I not bring it in?
I don't know where you put it.
Oh, on the floor? No wonder.
Yep, 138. It was 264.
I'll go get my
Cut it in
phone.
half. I thought, wait a
We're
minute.
sitting there
Where's all my
with the fan.
I said, they're still there, we just changed the font size.
I'm glad you were able to.
Well, I have those in 2 weeks. They're shipping my other 24 copies. And
Sad.
another week, they'll be available at your publishing bookstore. And they'll send me a link for Amazon. And then they'll start setting me up for the promotions. Doing books on I had to get permission from Mark to So there's a disclaimer in this author is, remember the other day when they have his views does not reflect that of the VFW and its
I mean,
affiliates.
even though they're
Hey, pretty good. Excellent.
Our goal is I have no doubt you are.
I like how he just raised his hand when they said seven.
Tiny houses?
You or Jerry.
Tiny houses,
You are.
that's another program that.
369 and 2.
I know I didn't have forever of a day to talk to.
You're not 70 either, right?
How are you?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm
Yeah,
that they do for veterans. That's a great organization. I don't, like I said,
whatever reason I got out, 5 years after I got out, I regretted this whole thing. I was just get on the way and I just had that person. I was like, you're right. I talked to my wife. I was being gone all the time, right?
Hey, comrades, feel free to take stuff from the table. Secondly, is,
Just got
want
married.
to remember veteran
Didn't have a
suicide
job.
in Jackson,
I said,
the
well,
6th of September.
I'll just
That,
re-enlist.
I'm the chair of, for the Military Coalition.
I did
We're gonna
that.
have Secretary of State Mobile Office there, MVAA, Military One Source, and Foxhole. That's a whole other program if you're not familiar. It's a martial arts organization. Run by my good friend, Marine. We always kid each other.
Had like 10 years.
And he gave me actual
Crazy, get out now.
gummy crayons one time at the department. But yeah, so there's flyers back here for that event. VFW members know that your post gets credit for attending community events as mental health director, like this. And then finally, I didn't put up my speaking information, but I speak professionally. So if you want to book Beacon for Home LLC, come to your organization and speak. I'm available for booking.
Well, they haven't told us just yet, but they're looking at a winter wedding, like November, December of 26. This is out of her place today, so yeah, definitely indoors.
Because I forgot to shut it off.
White formal.